On Sunday, January 29th, a scrimmage was held in Bennington at the former high school building, but it wasn't one involving two sports teams practicing for the big game. Rather, it was two tech clubs, the Manchester Machine Makers and the Bennington Area Cookie Clickers, first tech robotics teams meeting up to share ideas and to demonstrate the robots they've designed for a statewide competition, which will be held on February 11th up at Champlain Valley High School in Heinsberg. The competition is being sponsored by the University of Vermont's College of Engineering. 19 teams, all told, will be taking part to see how well their machines perform with executing certain tasks, like picking up paper cones and putting them on poles, this year's challenge. Each team had their own approach. The scrimmage began with each team discussing how they built their machines and the challenges they overcame, with the Cookie Clickers going first.
So this is the arm.
It's telescoping. Tell us about how you made it.
Yeah, telescoping arm. It goes up and down.
To grip something, you just have to put it in between these two, and this rack and pinion will pinch these down onto it. Yeah. So,
So something like this.
Indeed. Indeed.
How would it work?
Show us what the code is.
With the rack
And then it was the turn of the Manchester Machine Makers.
So for our slide system, we have telephone cables running to the servo on the end with the claw and another running to our sensors. And we were having a similar issue with your return. It wouldn't go all the way down. We had a return cable initially, but the travel distance for that cable and for the extension cables was different, so that would end up snapping throughout the matches. So we just took that off recently. We replaced it with a counterweight to bring it back down as opposed to elastic so that it goes down with gravity. These slides use
90-degree
the similar system to yours where you just pull the pulley, except there's two of them. They run off of the same motor with the sprocket and chain system, and they have 4 stages each, which gets us up to the high junction.
We caught up with two of the team leaders shortly afterwards for more.
This year, the challenge is we have an array of poles that are on springs and spaced in a grid pattern, and we get points for scoring cones on those poles. And there's also a additional bonus if you score those cones in a rectilinear grid. The most recent cone to be scored on a pole basically claims that pole for your alliance. So you're playing an elaborate game of tic-tac-toe across those poles in an attempt to create a line across that grid.
So what's been the hardest challenge to overcome in the process of building the robots that each one of your teams are doing?
I think the hardest challenge for us was working together to build one robot and bringing all the different parts in. Some people are good at code and some people are good at design, so just figuring out what works best. Yeah, there's an autonomous mode, which is basically a robot. We have to tell it to do something through code and it has to do it on its own without a driver. And then there's a part of the competition where you can drive the robot, so we have to code in the functions to the different buttons on the controller and just make sure all the things work with the code.
And like she was saying, a lot of the more complex coding tasks come in that autonomous period. For example, recognizing the image on the cone, which you have to do through a machine learning network that uses TensorFlow, and also location of the robot on the field, which can be done with either navigation targets on each wall using Vuforia, or encoders and a PID algorithm to go back and forth onto locations in the field.
And how often does each of your clubs meet? Do you guys meet every week or every other day? Or
we meet twice a week. We meet on Tuesdays and Sundays. On Tuesdays for only a couple hours, and then on Sundays sometimes 2, sometimes 4 hours.
We also have 2 sessions each week. Each one is 2 hours, one on Wednesday, one on Sunday.
The Manchester Machine Makers feature team members from the Maple Street School, Burn Burton Academy, and Granville High School. The Cookie Clickers bring together students from the Southshire Community School in North Bennington, Cambridge Central School in Cambridge, New York, Mount Anthony Union Middle School, and the Mount Anthony Union High School, as well as homeschool students. During a break in the action, we had a chance to speak with the coaches of the respective teams.
And so our team spends September to February building a robot, to accomplish the tasks that are given in this year's challenge. In previous years, they've shot rings to score goals, and last year they had to pick up elements and dump them into another bucket. And so it's always a little bit different, but they always have to drive around, and so there are certain commonalities to learning how to engineer a robot.
And the other thing I'd add is we tend to always refer to it as a competition because that's what's going to be easily appreciated by other people. The organization first really is built on this idea of gracious professionalism, and so it's actually within our group referred to as a co-opetition. So in one round, it's a competition between alliances of two teams. In one round, we might be teamed up with Manchester Machine Makers. In the next round, we might be competing against them with a different team. Yeah. And so a lot of this is really about how do we cooperate in order to accomplish something.
And with the competition goes the presentations. So not only do the students need to build the robot, but keeping track of what they're doing, what their ideas are, what their failures were, what their successes were, and then presenting that to the judges at the competition.
Is the purpose of today to kind of troubleshoot or kind of see where some problems may still be?
Yeah, you may call it like a scrimmage, non-competitive, challenging each other's and getting ideas and helping each other's improve the robots and the task at hand, whatever that might be.
Also, sort of a dry run for the competition.
And to practice speaking to other people about what they've done.
Yes.
So learning the communication side of science, technology, engineering, and math, and sharing their story and what they've thought of and what they've done. So
it is part of the competition as well, presenting themselves and talking about what they did and how they did it and the challenges they faced. It is part of it. They have to do that. So.
Right. Yeah, as the competition comes, they have to have their robots on the field performing the tasks, right? But an equal part of the competition itself are judged awards. Each of our teams have done very well in the judged awards. What that is all about is actually the engineering notebook. So any engineering project, right, will have a process that it goes through of trying things, discarding them, refining them, and what we do in the engineering notebook is we document all that. Speaking as a software person, we hate documenting, right? But it's really important. And
the first Tech Challenge will be held on Saturday, February 11th, and will be a chance for these budding tech wizards to show off their coding skills and more before a statewide audience. And then, maybe more. This is an international competition, and the next step would be, maybe, onto the New England Regional Contest in April. For the GNAT TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.
Now drive it around.